Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 27 of the J Situation podcast. I'm recording this on August 11th, 2020. Okay, so we're approaching mid-August 2020, and we're still alive. So right now, I have to say, right now, folks, I am literally hanging on by a thread, sanity-wise. That's why a vacation is in order. That's coming up soon. I'll talk about that a little later. Now, today I saw some political news. That is some news about US politics and what will be progressing from now until November. Man, buckle up. Buckle up, folks. Hopefully, we can keep some rights to own firearms and silencers. That sure would be nice. So I'm actually pretty optimistic that we will, but I guess we'll have to see. Now, I've spent some time traveling, some time, out on the road locally here lately, in some stores, shopping, things like that, and I'm seeing more and more people out and about. Some places are restricting the number of people who can enter the business at once, for example. Others aren't really checking anything really at all and kind of don't seem to care too much about occupancy. So, I still don't really understand the COVID end game. Honestly, like me personally, I don't get it because I don't know what we're going to do. So, I don't know what we're gearing up for here. I recognize that the illness can be very bad for some people, and I also recognize that we can't keep doing this forever. You know what I mean? And so I don't know. It just seems like it's either about to just get back to normal, or there's going to be some kind of catalyst to make that happen, or something else. I don't know. I wonder. I can't help but wonder: is it going to be tied to the U.S. elections? And I don't know. I don't know that answer. I guess anything's possible, though. What a time to be alive, right? I mean, you don't know. So other than all that, other than the COVID, the recent explosions, the protests, the riots, the aliens, Epstein, the robot overlords, other than all of that stuff, how are you folks doing? I'm doing pretty well. So today's episode, as always, is brought to you by Pew Science, pushing the silencer industry forward one test at a time. Visit pewscience.com for the suppression rating, the simplest and most accurate hearing safe ratings for your suppressed small arms. You can support this podcast, Pew Science, and our testing by joining at pewscience.com, and also by rating this podcast 5 stars on iTunes if you deem it worthy. And if you do that, iTunes and the general public will eventually realize that silencers and guns are awesome. So you can rate that on iTunes. It doesn't cost you a dime, and you might just help Pew Science, and then by proxy help the silencer industry and you. So this episode is another quick one. It's funny. I said that last time. I said it was going to be quick last time, and it was still an hour. So let's see what happens this time. I got 5 topics for you. First topic: intermediate results summary 6.18. We'll talk about that. That's the compact and mid-size 308 rifle silencer. Pretty in-depth summary I did of a test series. We'll talk about that. Topic 2, sound signature review 6.19, the Dead Air Sandman-Ti, the titanium Sandman. Reviewed that. We'll talk about the results of that test. Topic 3, more reviews coming soon, and gearing up for some new testing. So that's exciting. We'll talk about that, what's coming up. Topic 4, like I said, vacation is upon us. And maybe we'll talk a little bit about some gun stuff in that topic too. And Topic 5, as always, thank you to all the members of Pew Science. Your support is appreciated, and we'll talk about that briefly as well. Okay, so first topic, intermediate results summary 6.18. Yes. Compact and mid-size 308 rifle silencers. Okay, so how did you folks like this summary? Did you find this enjoyable? Did you find it interesting? It's pretty crazy, right? Kind of the data when you see it all at once. At least it was for me. You know, I thought for a while about how I was going to do a summary like this. And a lot of ideas crossed my mind, I have to say. This summary is intended to capture what are really preliminary conclusions and comparisons of the 30 caliber silencer space right now for supersonic performance, as far as compact and mid-size silencers go in that category. Now, so contained within the summary are 10 tests, 8 silencers, but in a total of 10 tests because 2 of the silencers were tested in 2 configurations, okay? The Rugged Radiant in its long and short configurations, and the CGS Helios in its vented and solid end cap configurations, because it had 2 end caps, right? So that resulted in a total of 10 tests. So the main takeaway from this review is the large chart that's provided in it. Okay, on that chart you will find the results of each of the 10 tests, and specifically you will find the suppression rating at both the muzzle and at the ear, as well as the somewhat nebulous back pressure metric. Okay, so let's talk about those 3 quantities. I'm going to run through some examples so that you can kind of follow along with me at home if you like, or just kind of listen to it. And I just want to give you a feel for how to use a chart like this so you understand. Okay, so we'll talk about these 3 quantities. The suppression ratings on the chart that you see are both absolute. Okay? This is different from the comparison charts you've been seeing in some of the reviews to date, in which I've shown the overall suppression rating normalized to a silencer, for example. So, okay. So let's take some numbers in this particular chart. Now, for example, the muzzle ratings you see on the chart, they're absolute. Let's take 2 of them and compare them as an example. So take the Omega 300. On the chart, you look at the chart, this is in the result summary 6.18 on the website. You look at the chart, the Omega has a muzzle suppression rating of 24.6. Let's call that 24.8. Or 24.76, so we'll call it 24.8, just round that up, okay? Now look at the Rugged Radiant in the long configuration. The muzzle suppression rating 19.85. We'll call it 19.9 at the muzzle. Okay. So then you have 24.8 versus 19.9. You with me so far? Okay. So if you scroll up to the top of the page and you see the suppression rating dose chart, you can click on that, make it bigger. You'll fill your screen there if you're on a desktop. And you can see that 19.9, the muzzle rating for the Radiant, it fits right damn smack in the middle of limited hunting engagement. Okay? In that region. Now, that tells you if you're a bystander, in line with the muzzle of the gun, like up, near the muzzle of the gun being fired, you don't want to hang out there too long. Whether it's prairie dog hunting or hog hunting, or if you're up by the muzzle of someone else's gun and they have a rating on there with 308, you don't want to hang out there too long if your buddy is shooting 308. Okay? Now the Omega, it bumps you up in the muzzle to almost 25. So it's doing a lot better, but it's still below that 30 line. So you got to be pretty careful if you're a bystander next to that muzzle, okay? And so you're safer as a bystander with the Omega, but it's still loud. And so that's the nature of the 308 supersonic cartridge. Okay, that's really a lot of sound pressure close to the muzzle, so you just got to keep that in mind. Okay, that's important to know. So that's one metric on the chart. Let's look at the next metric. The next metric, you have the suppression rating at the shooter's ear. Let's take the same example, the Omega 300, okay, from Silencer Co. Its suppression rating at the ear is 37.96. Well, let's round that up to 38. Let's say that's 38, okay? The radiant in its long configuration at the ear gets 32.51. Okay, we'll call it 32.5. So you can see the Omega was quieter than the radiant at the muzzle, and it just so happens it's also quieter at the shooter's ear. Well, how much quieter is it? How much quieter is the Omega than the radiant at the shooter's ear? Well, the Omega is approaching a level where you can start to do target shooting without ears for limited practice, right? You're at 38. You're almost to 40, man. You're getting there. You're getting kind of quiet. The Radiant isn't quite there. The Radiant, it's just not as quiet as the Omega. And, it's good for running a mag or two, but you don't want to sit there for a while and shoot more than you have to with a Radiant. You understand what I'm saying? Like, that's what the data is showing. Okay, so let's look at the third metric now. The third metric is back pressure. Okay, keep in mind, the back pressure metric is part of the Pew Science back pressure hypothesis. Okay? The theory is that the faster the gas gets out of the silencer, the lower the back pressure. Okay? It assumes, the hypothesis assumes that the time it takes to reach peak area under the pressure time curve, that is the peak momentum transfer potential or peak impulse, outside the silencer, is directly related to that flow rate through the silencer. Okay? That is the postulation. And so far, this metric hasn't been refuted. It just, the hypothesis has not been disproven yet. Now, let's talk about what it shows for the Omega and the Radiant, for example. And we'll keep this conversation going with those two silencers, just for example's sake. Now, first of all, the back pressure metric on the chart you see is normalized to the silencer with the highest or longest time to peak impulse, which is the CGS Helios QD with its solid end cap. With the solid end cap in the Helios, that silencer is restricting a lot of flow. It is very quiet for that reason. Therefore, you would expect it to have higher back pressure. Okay, so far so good, makes sense. Everyone with me? I mean, that's what I'm thinking. Okay, that's what I think. Now, when you look at the Omega, look at the chart, you look at the Omega, it takes approximately 78% of the time that the CGS Helios solid end cap configuration does to vent gas early time. It takes the Omega 78% of the time, meaning it dumps gas 22% faster than the Helios QD with the solid end cap. Okay, so one could postulate that the Omega has 22% lower back pressure potential. Okay, does the time it takes to reach peak impulse scale directly to pressure? Probably not, but it does scale to impulse inside the weapon system, because impulse is just pressure times time, man. It's pressure over time period. So the metric should be close. The relative metric should be close. Now, okay, look at the Radiant in its long configuration, all right? It shows to have only 60% of the back pressure. Wait, hold on. Yeah. The Radiant in its long configuration. Okay. It has only 60%, that's right, 60% of the back pressure of the Helios. All right? That's 40% lower. Okay, so what does that mean? We talked about the Omega. The Omega had 78%. Okay? So far in our relationship here, the Omega has more back pressure than the Radiant. And they both have lower back pressure than the Helios. All right? Okay, so I think so far so good. That's well known. I think people understand that the Radiant does have lower back pressure than the Omega. Okay, so that's good. Okay. So now I want to talk about something I haven't published to kind of keep this example going, maybe to convince you more. Okay. Let's take a look at the Razor, the Radiant, and the Surge that's not published, the rugged Surge, in both the Surge's long and short configuration. Okay, this isn't on the website. You haven't seen the Surge yet, but I'm going to tell you some info about it because I've been wanting to tell you guys this because I own those silencers, those rugged silencers, and I've tested them. So let me give you some qualitative data right now. It's not published yet, but I want to give it to you to help convince you why I think we're going in the right direction with regard to back pressure, okay? I want to talk about this. Now, Pew Science data shows that the Razor, the rugged Razor, has less back pressure than the Radiant in the long configuration. And it also has less back pressure than the Surge in the Surge's short configuration. You haven't seen the Surge, but I'm telling you that's what it's going to show when you see it, because I've done the calcs. Pew Science data also shows that the short configuration of the Surge has higher back pressure than the long configuration of the Radiant. Okay, did you hear that? Let me say that again. Pew Science data currently shows that the short configuration of the rugged Surge has higher back pressure than the long configuration of the Radiant. Now keep in mind, those two things are almost the same length, if you're familiar with those two silencers. And Pew Science data also shows that the long configuration of the Surge, the longest rugged silencer, has higher back pressure than the short configuration of the Surge when you take the little ADAT module off. Okay? So if you know rugged silencers, you know what I'm saying. You're starting to see, maybe the data's right. Yeah, because I tell you what, I've tested all of those silencers on semi-auto 556 and semi-auto 308, and I'm here to tell you, my results empirically, like when I'm hunting hogs and tuning guns to use those silencers, they agree with the back pressure calculations, like in a blind calculation. Like I did those calculations, just completely separately. Like this is math. Like this isn't like, oh, let me just bias my calculations by using a data point I know that's true. No. This is repeatable. Like this is a mathematical calculation based on the waveforms, and it's jiving with all of the rugged silencers. I just checked that just to double check. Like it's right for those. So it's matching what we got: the Radiant in the short and long configuration, the Razor, and the Surge in the short and long configuration. That's 5 configurations that's empirically validated. Like, okay, so that's 5 silencers. All right. I need the same type of silencer, but that's 5 silencers, and that's so far it's right. So here's a challenge for you. The challenge is pick something on the chart in this results summary. Pick something and try to disprove it. Try to disprove the back pressure relationship with the same ammo on the same host. To date, nobody has. Nobody has disproven it. It has not been disproved. It has not been refuted. And I want someone to, because that'll be great. But I don't know. If you think you have data that proves one of these things incorrect, let me know. Send me the data. Please reach out, tech at pewscience.com. That's TECH at pewscience.com. And I will take a look at your data. TECH at pewscience.com. You can also use the email form on the website. I'll take a look at the data if you have any. I look forward to the discussion. But I just want to tell you guys, like, I want you to, I don't want you to be seeing this chart and think that I'm pulling out of my butt. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not making up numbers. Like, this is a calculation that has correlation to reality. Not only the back pressure, but the suppression rating is based on inner ear modeling for humans with the full waveforms, with the full pressure waveforms. So, you know, all of this stuff is purposeful, thorough, and in black and white. Well, you know, just blue and red too. It's in color. It's in color, but it you know, with patterns there, so you can see if you can't see color for some reason, or you're on an old black and white monitor. Maybe you're a time traveler. Anyway, it's all there for you. I just wanted to kind of drive this point home because I want you to think about. I don't want you to take my word for it. If you have a doubt, test it. Take an AR-15. You know, take an AR-15 that might be overgassed. Put some of these silencers on it, and see what happens with your brass ejection. And you tell me that these relationships aren't right. Okay, well, I mean, we're gonna test bolt velocity with high speed camera eventually. I have a high speed. You know how many high speed cameras I have access to? I have access to more high speed cameras than probably most of you listening to this. And I'm not trying to brag, but it's like, not only do I have like my own high speed camera, I have access to an entire laboratory at my disposal if I needed to. I mean, we're gonna get world-class validation of the back pressure metric eventually. Okay? But I just don't have time right now. Otherwise, look, if I had time, I would be done with this like already. Like, I know like with the Pew Science mission, like what I need to do to like basically publish an entire encyclopedia of firearm suppression and like basically write a treatise on it. Like I'm doing that. I just need time. If I had more time, I'd be done, but I don't, and it's gonna take a while. So you're gonna have to be patient, and that's why I've published these things in a preliminary fashion, such that you can follow along with the research. And you know what? Because like it's good to have peer review, and this is not academia, and it's not formalized like that. I'm doing it a lot faster, because if this was academia, this would take like even longer, because it was, you know, people want to pad their resumes and take forever to peer review stuff, and it's just a pain in the butt. So by doing it this way to the public, I'm almost crowdsourcing peer review. You know what I mean? And I think it's smart. And I think you know, Pew Science is already in talks with not only manufacturers, but other entities. And like, this isn't like this stuff is getting pretty well known, to the point where like we're talking to folks that do this for reasons, and it's out here, and the data's here, and again, no one's done any testing to disprove it. So we're going to need you to, if you have the capability and you really feel strongly, you have an inkling, or if you're even curious, do it. Take let's look at the chart right now. Take what's a really popular Omega. Take an Omega and a Vox. No. Or let's take something even closer. Take a Vox and a Radiant. I'm just looking at something with like back pressure that's like really close, but you know, not the same. So you could like test out a minute difference. Oh, here's the one, like the Trash Panda and the Razor. Those, for all intents and purposes, should have like the same back pressure. So a Razor and a Trash Panda should have around the same back pressure, which kind of makes sense, right? When you think about it. They're both purpose built to do that. So test those out. See if you get around the same ejection. The only thing that might be different for the Trash Panda is that that one was a different ammo, and I did take that into account, but that might be a little different. So far I think it's agreeing, but I don't know. It should be okay. I don't know. Take an Omega and a Radiant, or do the rugged test that I have. I mean, I've already done the rugged test where you take the Razor, the Surge, and the Radiant, and you do all the configurations, and you see which one has higher back pressure. Like that'll agree with the chart. Like it did for me. The one thing that a lot of people were surprised about was the Helios, the solid end cap of the Helios being high back pressure. I'm like, why are you surprised about that? It's quiet. Because they thought, oh, well, the Helios is supposed to have low back pressure. It was like, it does have low back pressure if you put the vented end cap on it. And then someone tried to tell me that the Sandman-Ti, like someone on Reddit the other day was saying, well, the Sandman-Ti shouldn't have lower back pressure than the vented Helios. I'm like, well, what are you basing that on? What are you basing that hypothesis on? Because that's not what the data shows at all. The data shows that it has 3% lower back pressure than the Helios and the vented end cap. That's pretty close. But, someone said, well, Dead Air said the Sandman-Ti should increase the bolt velocity by this much. And I was like, I don't care what Dead Air said. Because unless Dead Air tested the Sandman-Ti and the vented version of the Helios on the same gun with the same ammo, then I don't care what they're saying about bolt velocity. What I'm telling you is that these metrics are relative. So the back pressure, like it says on the website, relative back pressure, it's normalized to the Helios. If you normalize a set of data, that means you can compare the set of data. Okay? So every back pressure metric on that chart should be comparable to one another mathematically. All right? I feel like I'm beating a dead horse now, but I just wanted to address that publicly because I'm like, if you're going to refute it, that's awesome. Like, I really welcome that discourse. But if you do, make sure you're doing it. Like, don't give me like, oh, so-and-so used a high-speed camera. It's like, okay, cool. Show me the test. Don't tell me about it. Show it to me. I can't do anything with conjecture. I can't. Because I don't have time. Okay? I don't have time for that. Okay, so I think that all makes sense. Now, what does all this mean practically? Like, what is it? Like, what the sound data means, right? You understand the suppression rating now. You understand the dose limit for your ears. You get that. You understand higher means quieter, lower means louder. That's easy for you, which is the whole point of the suppression rating, and that's why I did it. Okay? That's awesome. Now, so what about the back pressure? Like, I'm telling you to prove it or disprove it. Well, like I said in the article, we don't really know. We don't really know what back pressure metric threshold, as reported with the 308 tests, is optimal for a suppressed weapon system. We don't know. We just don't know yet. Now, there are a lot of factors. For example, you can have different length gas systems, different gas port sizes, different bolt carrier types, different buffer weights, different buffer springs, different length of receiver extensions, different ammunition. There are tons of variables. But what we do know is that relative information can be useful. And right now, the relative information shown in the graph should be correct theoretically. Theoretically. We know the Razor and the Radiant relationships make sense. Relatively. And if I had plotted the surge data on the chart, which will be there eventually, it's all going to be public eventually. If I had plotted the surge data with both of its configurations, you would see that it also fits in and it makes sense. Relatively. Okay, relatively. The relative back pressure. So right now, your best bet is to get familiar with one of those, one or two combinations, back pressure wise, if that's what you need for a semi-auto host of your choosing, and the relative relationship should theoretically help you. Now, if you have reason to believe any of this is incorrect, please let me know. Again, people are like, every time I ask someone, they're like, well, so-and-so said, I heard. I'm like, dude, that's fine. Like, I'm not dogging you for saying that. Like, I get it. Like, people are going to say stuff. That's cool. But hey, and it's totally fine. It's totally fine to doubt it. But if you're going to refute it, you have to show data. You have to. You cannot. I'm going to need, look, I'm going to need data to take any contrary opinion seriously. I'm just going to need data. Now, I'm going to need to see the data myself, or I'm going to have to see really in-depth analysis of it. I can't work on conjecture again. I don't have time. Okay, I'm a busy man. But I hope it helps. So, also contained within the summary, the summary 6.18, also contained within, besides the graph, besides the big graph, is a data interpretation section. Okay, I did something because I wanted to talk briefly about some of these silencers. Now, I'm not going to read it to you here on the podcast. You can go to the website and read it at your leisure. But I think you should check it out. The whole thing is free. This is free. This is free. It's in free beer, free. I talk about some notable outliers in the data and what I think about them and why I think what I do. And I hope you find it useful. The Sandman-S, the Trash Panda, the Vox, and the Sandman-K, they're all mentioned specifically there for you. So go read what I have to say about that. Okay? So I hope you guys enjoyed that results summary. I think it's pretty short, actually, but it has a lot of information in it. And it's an intermediate results summary. Remember, this is just an intermediate. This is a small section of the 308 silencer world. But they're all similar sizes, and it kind of puts them on the same level playing field. Okay. So let's move on to the second topic. The second topic is Sound Signature Review 6.19. The Dead Air Sandman-Ti. I don't know if you call it Sandman-Ti or Sandman-Ti. I'm going to say Ti. Okay, so this is kind of exciting, right? Because this is the first full-sized 308 silencer to be reviewed. Okay, the Sandman-Ti from Dead Air. I wonder if some of you even know about this silencer. It's a little unique. It's a little unique. Now, if you've seen the Pew Science data and the reviews of the Sandman-S and the Sandman-K, you've seen those. The Sandman-Ti is a lot different than those two silencers. Now, let's talk about the reason why it's different. Well, it's longer. It's full size. It's 8.2 inches long. Okay, so this is a full size silencer. It has a titanium outer tube to save weight. It still has the Stellite baffle stack that's fully welded. Okay, it does have a little more volume than the Sandman L, for example, which the Sandman L is coming in a later review. We have not released that data yet, but that we'll release that. It has a little more volume than the Sandman L. It is direct thread, which it does change the volume a little bit, changes the internal volume utilization a little bit, right? Because it has the direct thread instead of the chemo. So it's a much different silencer than the other Sandman. I'm gonna call him Sandman. Yeah. So it's not super light, but it's light for a Sandman because it's full size and it weighs 16.8 ounces. That's the same weight as the Sandman-K system, right? Because the Sandman-Ti weighs the same as the Sandman-K if the Sandman-K had the Sandman-K mount, like the Chemo. See, and the Sandman-Ti doesn't have a mount since it's direct thread, right? So you're actually comparing apples to apples. This is really an apples to apples weight comparison because we're comparing total system weight for both silencers. So they weigh the same. That's crazy, right? The K Sandman is the same weight as the longest direct thread Sandman. That's wild. Make sure you understand that. That's crazy. So, on to performance. Now, okay, it's quieter than the other Sandmen that are seen so far, right? So it gets a suppression rating of 41.5 overall, 25.7 at the muzzle, 41.3 at the ear. The peak sound pressure 1 meter left of the muzzle is 146.5 decibels average. So, hey man, we're getting quieter now, right? Getting quieter. Now, you're starting to see full-size 308 silencer performance and what you can expect, okay? And so you're starting to see how quiet we can get. Now, at the ear, the suppression rating of 41.3 lets you know you're good to go shooting steel. Not all day long shooting steel, but shooting a good practice session and being okay without ears on a 20-inch bolt gun. I hope that puts things in perspective for you. Okay? I hope that puts things in perspective. Now, of course, as you can imagine, the sound suppression comes with a cost. It comes with a cost, and there is a higher back pressure. So, if you scroll down in the review of the Sandman-Ti 6.19 there on the website, you scroll down, you will see at the in section 6.19.2, there is a figure, and it's a relativistic figure. The relative back pressure and relative overall suppression rating is abbreviated. It shows all the silencers you saw in the summary before, but it adds the Sandman-Ti in there. The back pressure is shown as 0.98 compared, once again, as you can imagine, normalized to the Helios QD with the Helios solid end cap. 0.98. That's approximately 2% lower back pressure than that of the CGS Helios QD with its solid end cap. So it's pretty similar. 2% back pressure, 2%. That's pretty close. For all intents and purposes, it might be the same. One could argue. Maybe, okay? Now here's where it gets interesting though. Let's compare the Sandman-Ti suppression performance to that of the Helios QD. Back from review 6.13, where we reviewed the Helios, where we tested that. The Helios beats the Sandman-Ti at the muzzle, 26.2 versus 25.7 suppression rating. And it also beats the Sandman-Ti at the ear, 44.3 versus 41.5. So I can tell you that ear difference is actually noticeable. That's noticeable. The difference between a suppression rating of 41.5 and 44.5 is noticeable to me. And that is a good gut check that tells you the numbers are jiving with reality, because the Helios does sound quieter. Now, the Helios with the solid end cap has just a touch more back pressure, like 2%, but it is noticeably quieter than the Sandman-Ti. And so you need to realize how big a deal this is. Okay, I'm talking these numbers, but I really I kind of want to drive one of these points home here, because the Helios in its direct thread configuration tested is an inch shorter than the Sandman. Ti. 7.2 inches compared to 8.2. Both direct thread. That's the thing. They're both direct thread silencers in the configurations tested. Now, the Helios is heavier. It's 20.7 ounces instead of 16.8. But it's all in canal, right? So, look, man, it's an inch shorter and it's quieter, though. So, it's a big deal. I'm not sure how many people are realizing what this means. So you can imagine if they ever made a titanium version of the Helios, which they actually have, it's the Hyperion K, which is also direct thread. That thing weighs a little over 10 ounces. That's like half the weight of the Helios. Like way lighter than the Sandman-Ti. You know it's going to be quieter since the Helios is quieter. So just think about that, man. Just think about things like that. Now, let's go back to the Sandman-Ti because this is about the Sandman. Now, this silencer, it's actually pretty cool. It's actually pretty cool. When you think about what it can do, okay, it kind of, you know what? The Sandman-Ti kind of reminds me of the rugged Radiant in a way. It has stellite baffles, but a titanium outer tube. Really, you could put the Sandman-Ti on a machine gun if you wanted, or an AR. You know, something like that, and not worry about any issues. The thing's durable. Now, sure, it has higher back pressure, but if you have a host that can deal with that, it might be okay. It might be okay. So just think about that. Think about that. It's direct thread, so you have to think about how you would attach it. But other than that, it's a pretty solid silencer, man. Sounds good, and it's not as heavy as it could be for its size due to the titanium construction. So, hey, it's cool. It balances weight with durability. Okay, good sound. So there's one last thing I wanted to talk about with regard to back pressure, though. Remember, it was the last episode, or one of the reviews I said I thought it's more efficient to reduce back pressure by making the hole in the middle bigger than it is to reduce the number of baffles. That's actually true, I think. To balance suppression when you have silencers that are like the size of the Radiant or the Sandman S with a certain amount of baffles. But when you get long, I think no matter what, you're going to get higher back pressure due to the amount of baffles. Even if you have baffles like the Sandman series with larger orifice, I think that's just how it's going to be. I think you end up running into an area of diminishing returns when there are just too many opportunities for the gas to slow down. I mean, because that's what you want, right? You want to make a quieter silencer by slowing the gas down more, right? So there you go. So once again, we have seen there is no free lunch. That is the moral of this story. There is no free lunch. Okay, topic 3. So we just kicked off the full size 308 silencer reviews. You know, Sandman-Ti was the first one, and I have several more of those to share with you. Now, soon we're gonna be doing another 308 test series based on the incredible amount of interest in that type of silencer. We just have more to do. We have to do it. We're gonna do 556 and stuff too, but we have to do more of these because I think that there's just so much interest in them, and because the back pressure hypothesis is becoming so important, and it's also continuing to jive with reality. I think we just need to test more of these 308 silencers. We just have to. And so here's a list of manufacturers I really want to get on the list. This is not all inclusive, but here's some of the ones that have been requested. And maybe you guys can help with some of this happening if we need your help. We might need your help. So the first one is OSS for obvious reasons. I mean, I've shot a lot of their stuff. I've actually shot everything from like the Rad 22, which is their little 22 can, all the way to their big bore stuff. I've shot their 338 can, or whatever it's called. I don't remember what it's called, but I think there's actually a picture of me on my Instagram shooting that on a 338 Lapua Magnum bolt gun. I've shot it. So I've shot a lot of their stuff, but I haven't tested it with PewSoft. And so a lot of consumers are asking for it. And so I think we have to give the people what they want. And these are really popular silencers, and their designs are intended to reduce back pressure. So, as far as silencers appropriate to help prove or disprove the back pressure hypothesis, I think the OSS silencers are definitely something we need to test. See what happens, man. We see what happens. Who knows what we're going to see? You know what I mean? So we'll see. Now, the next on the list is the Dead Air Nomad series. These silencers are really popular. If you guys want the Nomad series tested by Pew Science, let Dead Air know. Let them know. They're going to drive the boat on that. Okay. So if you're wanting that, you let them know. The next on the list will be Griffin Armament. There are a lot of Griffin silencers, man. They have a lot of products, I've noticed. And so they've sold a lot of those. They're really popular. And so I think that means it's important to get good sound signature characterization data for them. Okay? So we're going to do that. I think we're going to hit some Griffin cans. I've shot the Explorer series, but I think that's the only 308 silencer I've shot from them. Next on the list would be Silencer Co. This goes without saying, right? We're gonna have to. We tested the Omega 300. We need to test like things like the Harvester. We need to test the Omega 36M. We need to test that stuff. Like, obviously, so that. Right? I think people would agree that stuff needs to be tested. Now, YHM is another one. They have so much stuff over the years. They've had a lot of stuff, and some models have gone away. Some are new. We definitely need to test some of their 30 caliber stuff. And so Pew Science has a pretty good relationship with YHM. And so we'll probably be able to test a lot of their stuff, which is cool. They're super great guys. Now Thunder Beast, we actually have already tested some Thunder Beast stuff, but we need to test some more. So I actually haven't reached out to them yet. We have not spoken about this stuff. I have tested some of their stuff already though, and so when it's time to speak with them about that, I will. But I'm interested in testing more because there's a lot of, people understand that when it comes to 308 precision rifle performance and silencers, like Thunder Beast, is always a name that comes up. They do have high performance silencers and that are pretty light for bolt guns, and so that's just something that I think people would want to see. I was also thinking of another one. I would really like to test the Daniel Defense Wave. I would like to test that silencer, so I'm going to test that one. The last one on the list right now is Surefire. Now, we have tested a couple of Surefire cans already on 308. There were some issues. During the tests, and I don't know if we can publish the data due to the issues we had. But we still might be able to. The problem is, if I publish the data and the data is influenced by the issues we had, the data will be possibly misleading, and I don't want that to happen. And so I'm going to take a look at that data when I can and see what we can do, if anything. If we can't do anything about it and the data's garbage because of what happened, we'll have to just retest those silencers. Okay? I just wanted to give you an update on Surefire because I know a lot of you guys are interested in Surefire stuff. I really want to test some Knights Armament stuff. It's so hard to get. It's so hard to get it. And so that's just something like I'd love to. We'll see. That one might be a hard one. Anyway, do you guys have any specific requests for 308 silencers? If you do, let me know. Email tech@pewscience.com. And I know some of you members have you put some on your wish list. I think that the wish list is being addressed in what I've just listed in this discussion. If I'm missing one that you told me about early on that I can't remember, please email me, tech@pewscience.com. If you're a pro member, email me at the pro email address, please. We'll talk about it. I'm going to do my best to get as many silencers in the next 308 test series as possible. Okay? so we can help the most consumers possible. Now, it would be great to get them like all tested all in one day. Um, just for the economy of scale, so we can get that huge backlog of data like we've had, and so that would really be great to maintain efficiency, because maintaining efficiency with this is like the name of the game. To keep this pace going, we're gonna have to do something like that. And it's doable. We just got to get them all. It's okay. There's always data, right? Like that's the thing. There's always silencers to be tested. We let me make this clear. Like we do not have a shortage of silencer supply. Like if there's like a silencer manufacturer that for some reason like doesn't have a supply, so like we can't get one, like that's okay. Like if there's a silencer manufacturer that like has heartburn and for some reason they cut off supply to us for some reason, thinking that for some reason that would like prohibit us from testing it or something like that, like that also doesn't affect what we're doing, because we can get silencers from pretty much wherever we want. Also, there's so many silencers that like we're just going to keep testing them and eventually we'll get to it. You know what I mean? Like it's like every silencer that exists is going to be tested. So it's just like a matter of time. It's just the order in which we go in is the only thing that is variable. Does that make sense? So if you're listening, don't worry. Like if I didn't mention a company and like, for example, and if you reach out and I say, I don't know, don't get discouraged, because like we're going to get it. But like the more people that reach out about certain ones, like the higher the priority gets, and then we test them. Okay. So that's just how it is. I mean, this is like, as you can imagine, can you imagine if there's like 100,000 silencers to test? Obviously can't test them all at once, but we can keep going. I'm only one man. Okay. Topic 4. Vacation is upon us. Well, that's a topical discussion. Yeah. Some gun talk too. I mentioned some gun updates. So, okay. We're going on vacation this week, guys, at the end of the week. So no review this week, okay? No review. I'm burned out. Okay? I'm burned out. The fact that I'm recording this podcast right now, it's almost midnight. I'm done. I'm done for now. I'm tired, and in order to keep this going, I have to take a break. So no review this week, and probably no review for the next couple weeks, because after vacation, I have a gigantic real-world day job test program to run. Have nothing to do with silencers, okay? It's much bigger stuff happening, and so that's going to take up a lot of my time, and therefore I might not have a podcast for a couple weeks too. We'll see. Vacation and day job stuff, it's going to take precedent over the next couple weeks, so sorry about that. I know I spoiled you, but right now it's just on the cards, and I'm burned out. So this is where we're going to do it. Now, we might be able to release a review in the interim. I might be able to. It just depends how much time I have after vacation, but I don't know. I'm definitely not going to promise anything to you. I'm not going to promise anything. And again, I also might be able to do a podcast remotely. Might do it with some of my engineer buddies that I'll be working with. I kind of did want to, might have like some kind of off-topic podcast. Maybe talk to some people that aren't involved with silencers. That might be cool, right? Get an engineer's perspective that isn't involved with silencers, like some really super smart engineers that study combustion, and like talk to them about, like, wouldn't it be cool to hear their opinions? I could do that. I haven't told them I'm going to do that yet, so they might not be open to this. But we could, drink some whiskey in front of the campfire and do that, so to speak. I don't know. I just want to let you guys know what to expect and what not to expect, and that there's going to be a short break. Okay, we will be back, but this is just me giving you a courtesy notice. Now, regarding gun talk, I wanted to update you on the 300 Blackout upper for the machine gun that I love so much. Couple things. LMT enhanced bolt carriers, they're en route. I just got shipping notice for 2 of them. They're not the bolt carrier group. I didn't get the bolts, but I did get 2 enhanced carriers. Isn't that dope? I actually got 2 of them. So that's awesome. Now, that's things that are coming. It's good because I don't necessarily need the enhanced bolt because the enhanced carriers have the lengthened cam path, and that's really what I was after. That is the thing I was after. And what's really cool about that, because they're a normal length carrier, you can use it with any bolt. So it makes it a very flexible possible upgrade for a suppressed AR-15 or M16, in my opinion. Okay? So that's very cool. You should be able to use those with a normal receiver extension or an A5 length extension. They're a very flexible upgrade, and I'm glad I was able to source 2 of those. Got one for me and one for my girlfriend. I actually got in A5 buffers to mess with and make lighter. Remember we talked about needing a lighter A5 since the hydraulic buffer might be too heavy for 300 blackout, most likely. So I did get those parts. So that's dope. And also, what I need to do tomorrow is I need to call a vendor. Let me see. I just got an email. Oh no, that's just something else. Dang, I was hoping. I did order. That was my account for ordering stuff. I ordered a Surefire OBC, an optimized bolt carrier. I mentioned that on social media the other day. It is kind of like the LMT. It's made by Surefire, okay? It's a different system. It's kind of like the LMT, but it's special because it's shorter and uses a custom shorter buffer. It allows for a longer stroke of the whole carrier moving backward. It has a longer cam path like the LMT, but it has a spring-loaded mass in the carrier to change the dynamics a little bit. Man, there's a lot going on with this thing. It is really designed for full auto weapons suppressed. I'm going to call the vendor tomorrow and see if it's shipping this week. The word on the street was that they were getting the shipment this week from Surefire. So I am stoked about that if that's true. But I'll be on vacation though. I'll be drinking Coronas on the beach. So I won't be able to mess with it. But hey, maybe it'll be here when I get back. So yeah, so that's a little update for you on that. Just want to keep you guys updated. I know some of you guys are following along in the build. So I wanted to update you on that. Okay. All right, 5th and final topic. As always, thank you so much to all the members of Pew Science. You guys are literally making this happen. I would not do this if it wasn't for you. Like seriously, you're funding research, man. Like I don't know. Excuse me. I don't know what to say. Like I wouldn't be able to do it. So thanks. Really cool. Now, you know what was actually really cool too this week, the other day? Military Arms Channel. I don't know a lot about that guy, whoever runs that, but I know they have a gigantic social media following, and the dude followed Pew Science LLC on Instagram. Cause I thought that was cool. Now, cause you know what happened was, one of you Pew Science folks gave Pew Science a shout out on one of his posts on Instagram. And a lot of folks followed our corporate page because of that. That was cool. So thanks. I forgot the gentleman who did that, but I thanked him via DM. I just wanted to thank him again publicly. Thank you, sir. That was nice of you to do. Kind of, because I think Military Arms Channel guy made a post about how he has like a decibel meter on his Apple Watch or something, and that it wasn't accurate because it doesn't measure fast enough, which is true. And then the Pew Science supporter was like, Pew Science has cool stuff on their website. You should check it out. And then I saw he tagged me, so I went on there. I was like, thank you for highlighting our data. Gave a little spiel to tell people, yes, we do this. This is what it is. Thank you. And then the Military Arms Channel guy was like, now I follow you. And I was like, cool, man. So that was cool. That's that. I talked about this the other day on the podcast. That's that grassroots endorsement I'm talking about, man. That helps. All you folks that support with a membership, that's awesome. All you folks that help spread the word about Pew Science. That's awesome too. We're just trying to help everyone. And I think it's like really helping to grow like that. Now, like, look, I'm not sure how many folks that end up joining because of stuff like that will ever support us with a membership. But hey, the fact that the community is growing, like that alone is cool to me. I think even like the Mr. Guns and Gear dude, like all those guys, I think they're like they're following Pew Science now, man. That's cool. So like they're looking at us and they're like, oh, what are they doing? What's Jay doing? Is he like testing? I'm like, yeah, man. Like you want to see some stuff? Like we're here and we out here, fam. Like we're testing. So and it's good stuff. It's good data, I promise. I even to oh yeah, this evening there was another one. This evening I saw Kevin from Q release the podcast that I did with him when I was up visiting Q. He and I sat down and did his podcast. That's like over 2.5 hours of me. Well, his isn't very structured. We were drinking and it was a whole thing. It was pretty fun. And he I don't know. Yeah, that's like 2.5 hours of BSing about silencers and the industry and everything like that. It's not very structured conversation, but we did have a good time. It might be entertaining for you. I don't know. So you might want to check that out. As always, though, thank you for listening. Thank you for listening to this podcast. And remember, rating this podcast 5 stars on iTunes if you think it deserves it. It does help Pew Science. And it does not cost you anything. If you're really digging what we're doing, yeah, you can join with the membership at pewscience.com. Cancel anytime. Every little bit helps. There are ads on the website that support us as well. Hey man, ads suck, but hey, if enough people see them and click them, that could theoretically that could help too. So hey, those are all the ways. Those are just all the ways you can help Pew Science. Spreading the word, stuff like that. It's greatly appreciated. Okay, so we're about an hour? Yeah. Hey, I think it's interesting how I always hit about an hour because man, like I said earlier, it is vacation time. You might not hear from me for a couple of weeks, okay? I mean, I'm going to be here. I won't be here. I'll be on the beach. Maybe. Who knows? Might be, you never know. I'll be everywhere. I'm actually going a lot of different places. So, you might not hear from me while I take this time to decompress with my loved ones and I take a break from work. Both from my day job and from Pew Science. So I look forward to talking to you again soon. And I really appreciate your time. I hope the data on the website and everything in the interim gives you some reading material. So I look forward to talking to you again soon. Until then, have a good one and stay safe. Bye, guys.